treasure chest? Is it in your bedroom? Where is it? Don't tell me. Look, there's a ransom note for the treasure chest. No, that's just gold. That's not the treasure chest. The treasure chest is a chest that's a box that's about this big. The treasure chest is gone unless we find the clues fivefold. Is this folded 5 times? Now, what does it mean to find the clues fivefold? Anybody know? Do we have a guess? Well, what do we have to find? Let's start there. What do we have to find? Nope, we don't have to find the treasure. We have to find the clues. The dog? Oh, the gold. Well, we found the gold. The gold's right here. Well, some of the gold, but a lot of the gold is missing. Find the toys. No, that's not it. Find, what does it say? Find what? Fivefold. What's fivefold? No, it says it. What's fivefold? Find, what's that say? What are we finding? No, what are we finding? Okay, look, you guys are smart. She read the, unless we work together to find what? What? What's it say? Right there. No. What? Right here. What's it say? The clue. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so we have to find 5 clues. Wait. Hey, what? Hey, that's water. That's not a clue. Is that a clue? That's it. So we have water things in church. All right. Somebody go get that clue. There are 5 of them we've now found. 1. What's it say?
It's right here.
Oh. That's that. But, oh, we found another one. Look, we have 2. There must be 3 more. Yeah. Or 3. We have 3. Here, you hold these. We have 4. We just have, we have 4 ones on the ground. Now we just need 1 more. Where's 1 more? We gotta find it. Gotta find the clues. Fivefold. Did you find it? We have 5. Savannah, turn around. We got them. Turn around and use the key. Let's put this. See if we can put this together and find out what this is. A lot of you guys, you know, I'm going to use this because I'm the oldest one up here. All right. So a lot of you guys have been coming, but some of you guys are new and you haven't come up here very much. Why did we come up for a children's sermon? And why is there a children's sermon on the treasure chest? And why do you get gold every week? That's what this is going to answer. Savannah, when you get that all together, you tell me. You have it together? Oh, you're good at this. All right, can we huddle? Savannah, you did a good job of reading the original clue. Can you read this? What is this? Is this a verse? Hey, I think there's another clue. Do you see the other clue? It's way over there. Go find it. Quick, read. No, all you guys come here. Here, you guys come here. You guys come here. Come here. That was a dirty run. Conversations of wisdom and knowledge. Kiddos, here's why we come up front to the treasure chest every week. And here's why we come to church every week. It's to wrestle with you. No, here's a, hang on a second. Hang on. Just a second. No. Hang on just a second. Stand. Stop for a minute. Please. Listen, here's why we come to church, and here's why we come up to the treasure chest. Because it's a treasure chest. That verse says, if we understand Jesus, we understand all the wisdom of God. No, don't do that. All right, so we understand all the wisdom. So, guess what? I know where the treasure chest is. We hit it. And if you want some gold, you got to come up right back here. Right back here. No, go around. You can't climb over the wall. So that would be a very cowardly thing to do. Find some gold. Dig for gold. Everybody gets a piece of gold. Oh, I think you can right now. Gold, we have gold. Okay, see you guys. Have fun storming the castle. I don't know about you guys, but I loved the old-fashioned service last week. Congratulations to Judy and to Nancy and to Jane for putting that together, researching it, and bravo to all of you for coming in costume. Some of you say I didn't come in costume. Really? Yeah, it looked like it. The things I didn't like about service, I'll have to tell you the truth, I didn't like being so stern with the children. I mean, I had to read them out, and I mean, that's a little uncharacteristic, and I didn't like all the silence. And we were a really friendly congregation. Last week we were just stone cold. And that was part of the get up, part of the pretend. But I didn't like that part of it. I did like a lot of the service last week. I like standing out of respect for Scripture. I love that. I like the fact that we came in with a worshipful attitude, as if to say we expect God to come and visit us in our time together at worship. I like the fact that I got to carry a gun. And I've been telling all my friends all week long about, this 1838 service, and I inevitably, when I tell the story, I say, and I got to wear a gun. And my father-in-law said to me yesterday, so was it normal in 1838 for the minister to wear a gun? I said, I don't care, but I mean, who's going to take a live ammunition? Well, you would, but who's going to take a gun from the minister, So I love that. I liked a lot of the service, but one of the things I liked the most was the chance to engage our imaginations and see what it was really like, as close as we could come. I love it when we use our imagination and God sanctifies our imagination. We get to use our imagination. I'm going to invite you this morning to use your imagination as we go to the book of Joshua chapter 14. While you're finding your way to Joshua 14, let me give you a little bit of background. The book of Joshua is really about when the Israelites finally get the blessing that God promised them about 600 years earlier, the promise of the promised land. And the book of Joshua, chapter 1, God says, don't be afraid to take the promised land now. You've been waiting a long time for this. Now you're going to cross the Jordan River and you're going to go in and you're going to start conquering these cities. And I will be with you every place you go. And you're going to occupy every place where you put your feet. And it's just a great series of stories. The whole book of Joshua is the story of Israel taking the promised land. But you have to go backwards in history to really get it. God was ready to give Israel the promised land a whole generation before they received it. And so God said to Moses, the leader in charge of Israel, I want you to pick 12 men who would do a little reconnaissance mission for the nation of Israel. I need them to sneak into the promised land. I need them to survey the ground. I need them to come out and tell the nation of Israel whether or not the promised land is really a promised land. And so the 12 spies go in. Anybody know any of the names of the 12 spies? Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. I'll help you with that in a minute. So the 12 spies go in, and they search it out, and they find out, oh my goodness, these people know how to farm. They have like grapefruit the size of your head, and they have grapes the size of your fist, and everything's like on steroids, and the ground is productive, and the cities are wonderful, but so are the people. The Anakites are there. They're giants. The Canaanites are there. They're fierce fighters. The Hittites are there. They will defend their property. And so the 12 spies go in and they check things out and they come out and Moses has them come together and say, okay, give a report of the land. And the report is, oh my goodness, it is so abundant over there. It is property worth taking. Except for 10 of the 12 spies say, but there are Anakites there. They're giants. There are Canaanites there. They'll fight like dogs for their land. And there are the Hittites there, and they aren't giving it up easily. I don't think we can take it. 10 of the 12 said, we can't take the promised land. But 2 of the 12, the 2 whose names you know, say, no. With God's help, we can take this promised land. God will help us. God will go before us. God will give us these enemies because, well, he promised to. It's the promised land. Now, do you know who the 2 names are? I said one of them already. What book are you in? Joshua. Joshua was one of the 2 spies. As a young man, he went in, and he came out and he said, we are taking the promised land with God's help. Yeah, there are giants. Yeah, there are Canaanites. Yeah, there are Hittites. We can conquer them with God's help. And his partner? Caleb. Caleb and Joshua. Now, we get to the book of Joshua, and it is the story of the taking of the promised land. We know what happened to Joshua because, well, it's the book of the Bible named after him. And it's the story of the conquest. But what happened to Caleb? Caleb goes silent for 45 years. We don't hear his name. Not once is it mentioned, and yet he is there. And we catch up with Caleb in chapter 14 of the book of Joshua. Caleb shows up. Now, this is where you need to engage your imagination. I'm just going to read it to you. I won't set it up. Let me just read it to you. Beginning in verse 6, Caleb shows up. Now the men of Judah approached Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb Caleb, son of Jephunneh the Canaanite, said to him, "You know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, at Kadesh Barnea, about you and me. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to explore the land, and I brought him back a report according to my convictions. But my brothers who went up with me made the hearts of the people melt with fear. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. So on that day Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance, and that of your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. Now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses, while Israel moved about in the desert. So here I am today, 85 years old. I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard that the Anakites were there, and their cities were large and fortified. But the Lord helping me, I will drive them out just as he said." Did you picture that? Did you try to picture that? So Caleb walks up to Joshua. Caleb walks up to Joshua. Look, all I can do to help engage my imagination is think about the people in their 80s that I know. No offense to any of you if you're there. I'm thinking of my dad. My dad's 82 years old. He's now found a new use for both of his hands. He leans on stuff. He has one hand on a cane and one hand on the bumper of the car, right? And that's how he gets around, and the hands are there to steady. So when I'm picturing this story, I see Caleb, 85 years old. He looks like my dad, a little more hump than that. And he comes up, and he's a man of conviction, just like my dad. And he says, "Joshua, we need to talk. Because 45 years ago, when I was a young warrior, I was sent as a spy with you and 10 other guys. And I went in, and you and I were the only two who came out and said, I know there are giants. I know there are Canaanites. I know there are Hittites. But God promised us this land. We can get it with God's help. Now I'm 85 years old. I want my inheritance." And then he said something really interesting in verse 12. "I'm still as vigorous now to go to war as I was then." I'm sorry, maybe I think too much when I'm reading the Bible, but I'm thinking one of three things. If he's as vigorous now as he was then he had trouble when he was 45 years old, right? I mean, he is an old man. He was a weak warrior back then. That's one possibility. Or maybe he's a stallion at 85. Maybe this guy is a monster. Maybe he still goes to the gym 5 days a week and he runs every morning and he's still like a beast and he'd take on anybody because he's like, I'm sorry, that's beyond my imagination. 85 years old going against a 40-year-old warrior, just as strong, just as vigorous, impossible. Now, which is it? Either he was a lousy warrior when he was young, fought like an 85-year-old, no offense, or he's a stallion now. Which is it? What do you think? I told you there were three choices. I only presented two. If you were astute, you would say, what's the third choice? Because neither one of those makes sense to me. There is a third choice, and he said it to Joshua. He says, verse 12, "Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard that the Anakites, the giants, were there, and their cities were large and fortified. But the Lord helping me, I will drive them out just as he said." Here's what I discovered about Caleb this week. Caleb caught something that most people didn't catch back then, and I don't think most of us catch today. That when we go into battle for the army of the living God, we are not fighting alone. We fight with God standing right beside us and God pushing the supernatural button over and over and over again. We can't see it. We didn't even know we had a button. But things happen in our spiritual battles to give us success, and part of it is because we are doing what we're supposed to be doing to try to have spiritual success, and part of it is because God is standing right beside us. The other spies couldn't see that. All they could see was Anakites and Canaanites and Hittites and fortified cities and there's no way we can take that. That's true. There's no way you can take that. But God's standing right beside you. You will take it because God promised you would. Let me take you over to that first report. Numbers chapter 13. Let me just read a little bit. Genesis, Exodus 13. Fourth book of the Bible. Let me just take you back to that day when Joshua and Caleb came out of the spy run, and Caleb understood early on in his life, we can't do this alone, but we can do this with God. We can fight this enemy with God. This is Numbers chapter 13. And we're going to start reading in verse 26. They, the spies, came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. There they reported to them the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. They gave Moses this account. We went into the land to which you sent us, and it really does flow with milk and honey. Here's the fruit. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and large. We even saw descendants of Anak there, the Amalekites. They live in the Negev, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites. They live in the hill country, the Canaanites. They live near the sea along the Jordan. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. But the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack these people. They are stronger than we are. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, the land we explored devours everything in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak came from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. And so the next paragraph, the people go, okay, there's no way we can take the promised land. We believe the report of the 10 spies. We don't believe what Caleb and Joshua are saying. So you go down to verse 5 of chapter 14. Then Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole Israelite community, gathered there Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh, who was among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes, and said to the entire Israelite assembly, the land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and he will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will swallow them up. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. This is what happened 45 years earlier. Caleb and Joshua said, look, we can't do this alone. No doubt about it. These people are giants, and they're fortified cities, and they're bigger enemies than we are. But the Lord will go with us, and he'll keep pushing the supernatural button. And now we don't hear anything from Caleb for 45 years. But Caleb has been there. And here's what he has seen in 45 years. Caleb saw when a generation later, the punishment time for Israel, they have to wander around the wilderness for 40 years. And now Caleb and Joshua are the only two soldiers still living, because God said, I will honor you and you will go in the promised land. They are ready to go in the promised land. There's only one problem. The Jordan River is in between them and the promised land. And the Jordan River is at flood stage. And so God says, okay, you guys can't possibly get 1 million people across this river at flood stage. So guess what? Take the Ark of the Covenant, step into that river. I will stop it. It will stop just like the Red Sea parted. I will stop the Jordan River. And the ground will be instantly dry. And in one day, you'll take all 1 million people inside the promised land. And Caleb was there watching God do that. God was pushing the supernatural button. If we will do our job, God will push the supernatural button and stop a river when it's flooding. Then they go in and they start attacking cities. And the first city they attack is the city called Jericho. And 5th grade, you remember this from Sunday school. The battle plan is so weird. They go up, they walk around the city one time, Israel goes home. They go the next day, they walk around the city, they go home. They do that for 6 days. On the 7th day, they walk around that city 7 times, blow the shofar, the ram's horn, scream and yell, and God pushes the supernatural button. Who was it that made those walls come tumbling down? Almighty God did. Did that mean the warriors didn't have to fight? No, they had a brutal battle. But Caleb knew that if they would do what God says to do, God would push the supernatural button and the walls would come tumbling down. Well, there was one little problem with that battle. There's this guy named Achan. Israel was told, don't take any plunder from Jericho. Everything goes into the temple treasury. Remember this from Sunday school. Achan stole gold, silver, and a bathrobe. And he hid it under his tent. And nobody knew except for God. And the next day God said, you got uncleanness in that Israelite community, so he made the whole nation stand up. And then they started pointing to sections. Nobody guilty there, sit down. Nobody guilty there, sit down. Nobody guilty there, sit down. Until finally one man was standing, and it was Achan. And God said, you must condemn him and stone him and execute him for stealing from me. And Caleb was there, watching God push the supernatural button of finding hidden sin and rooting it out. The next battle they go to is a city named Ai. They tried to attack it. They didn't go God's way. They lost. They lost 36 men, and the rest of them were in retreat. God said, go my way and you'll succeed. The next day they went back. They fought the city. They destroyed the city of Ai. God pushed the supernatural button. Then 5 area kings say, Israel's coming. They're going to wipe us out. We better come together and create a huge army to go against Israel. They did that, and God said, okay, 5 against 1 isn't fair, so how about it's 5 against 1 plus God? And God comes in, and he sends a hailstorm. This is Joshua chapter 11 or 12, if you want to check it out later. God sends a hailstorm, and it says, and more of the enemy warriors were killed from hail that day than from the sword. God pushed the supernatural button. Time and time and time again, all the way back from the beginning, Caleb has been there to see that God with us, we can fight this battle and win. Can't do it alone. But you can defeat giants. You can defeat fortified cities if you fight with God with you. Does this have any connection to us? Other than Friday night football, we don't really have like battling warriors to try to destroy an enemy, right? I mean, we're not really against people in Piqua or West Milton or even the big fortified city of Dayton. We're not going to war against them. No, but we are battling things all the time. And the battles are as individual as there are people here. Some of you guys battle things like isolation. You feel like you're all alone. You can be in a crowd, but you're so lonely you can't stand it. And some of you guys are battling relationship issues. And man, there was a relationship in your life that is just an absolute crisis. Some of you battle habits that just, boy, you wish you never instituted that habit, but you are taken down by that habit time and time again. And some of you battle health issues, and some of it's finances, and some of it's discontentment at work. I mean, we're battling all kinds of things, and all of us are battling different varieties of temptation, where Satan dangles temptation in front of us, and we go, I know this is stupid, but I'm going to do it or say it or think it anyway. By yourself, you can't beat those giants. By yourself, you can't take out those fortified cities. But if we can understand what Caleb understood, that if we will do our part and call on God, he will push the supernatural button. And when the floodwaters are up around your nose and you think you're going to be taken out by it, call out to God and he'll stop that river. And he'll give you dry ground to walk on. You still have to do the walking, but God will supernaturally come into that situation. And you face a fortified city of a relationship that's in disaster, or finances that are out of order, or temptation that keeps taking you down. God will push the supernatural button and make the walls come crumbling down. And you'll face enemies like the city of Ai that has taken you out before. And you'll find victory over that enemy. Time and time and time again. God will push the supernatural button and fight the battles with us. And that's how we defeat the giants. That's how we tear up the fortified cities. Cannot do it alone. Can't do it with all the great habits of getting up in the morning and throwing logs on the altar fire and before your head hits the pillow doing all those things. That's all good stuff. That's good formula. We need to call on Almighty God to be an Almighty God, to help us overcome temptation, to help us heal relationships, to help us fight the isolation, to help us deal with health issues or financial issues or whatever the issues are. Call on Almighty God. And then 85-year-old warriors who are stumbling around with a cane and the edge of a car can say, just as strong today as I was before, because it's not my strength that wins. God's strength that fights with me and with me. I have no idea what you're going through. I'm just trying to shoot a shot into the middle, realizing that most of us deal with things like temptation and things like issues. Man, what's the fortified city that's scaring you to death? Who are the giants that are making you shake in your armor? Please stop fighting alone. Please stop fighting alone. Call on Almighty God and let Him help you fight and win. That's what the 85-year-old knew. And he's one stallion of a warrior as an old man. May God add His blessing to the reading and explanation of